brings us to our next question. Our president's preferred communication medium is Twitter. I've never used it. I hear it's great. Needless to say, the internet and social media have changed the political world in which we are living. How has our role as responsible citizens changed in the digital age, or how do you feel it should change?
For me, in Covington, which is basically it's a small city. We're the largest city in northern Kentucky, the 5th largest in the state, but we only have a population of about 41,000. So social media really played a big role, I believe, in the Covington race and probably in most races anymore. It's an easy way for people who really don't want to get out in the community. They can do everything from home, and a lot of times people like to hear their thoughts, read their thoughts, and want other people to see what their thoughts are. The problem is there's no, if someone decides to lie, if somebody wants to kind of make out a person to be a bad person, there's nothing you can do to counter that. They can take it off if they've gone a little too far, but basically once it's out there, it's out there. And so it's actually become it's become a ploy or a platform, or I'm struggling with the word. It's a game that people play that they go ahead and lie because they know that people are going to believe the lie, and it's going to be up to the person who now has to correct the lie to correct that. And that's going to be way, way harder. So it's easier to lie than to tell the truth. And it's easier to lie than to try to correct that lie. And so it's become, for me, for the most part, the norm. I had one commissioner who was addicted to social media. And as he was on social media and he was drinking his bourbon at night, you could tell the more drinks he had as he was posting. But an example where I guess there's the good and the bad is that with the Women's March and then the event that happened last night was many of us would not have participated in those events if it had not been on social media. We would not be here tonight if it wasn't social media. So I think it's up to the public again to say, we want good social media, we don't want the negative, the nasty social media. And so it's again as to how you respond to it.
So Tamaya mentioned millennials, and I will say that we use social media probably a little too much, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think many millennials get their news from Twitter. That's how they stay informed. That's how they communicate and figure out what's going on in the world around them, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But it becomes a problem when you hide behind the computer screen and you spew terrible rhetoric without being able to back it up or able to communicate with other people. I think democracy is best when you collaborate, you interact with other people, and you talk to people that have different views, opposing views, and to be able to do that, whether it's on social media, that's fine, but it plays a significant role to do that face-to-face and actually have human interaction. So I think that balance needs to be formed, and I'm not sure what that balance is exactly, but it's also important to make sure that you have face-to-face interactions and you're able to communicate your ideas with other people in person as well.
So I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach. I think social media is incredibly important. It allows us to know who people are in a way that we've never had in American politics, what people believe on a daily or minute-by basis, who they are outside of the work environment. I think all of those things are incredibly good. I actually don't criticize Donald Trump for using Twitter so much, but the fact is he was still elected president for what he does and says on Twitter. And I think that says more about who we are than it does about him. And I think the problem goes back to what I said, which is that we are so in our comfort zones behind social media or in an office space that we haven't reached out and got to know each other in the way that we used to. And so the empathy for people who are different or have different experiences, we've lost that because we don't talk to each other enough. So I actually think social media is really good. Now it's disproportionately used based on what I think all of it should be about. But the problem isn't social media, it's that we don't talk to each other enough and share our own stories and listen to other people who are different from us. And therefore, we've created this cocoon of isolation of groups. And that's what's led to Donald Trump as president. Because, I probably don't get it out of over the Rhine enough. Someone might not get out of Covington enough. Or, just really going to those places that you're vulnerable and it may not be comfortable and sharing experiences. I think that's what's going to ultimately defeat Donald Trump, not deleting his Twitter.
Yeah, I agree with Chris. I think the challenge, I agree with all the positives, and for me the unique challenge of social media is we're continuing as a community to silo ourselves into communities that we agree with. And so as a result, we're not talking to folks, we're not engaging with media, or even on a consumer level. Democrats and Republicans shop at different places. They get their news at different places. They express their faith in different organizations. And social media exacerbates that silo. I do think Chris is right. We've got to get out of our silo, get out of our comfort zone, engage with folks who disagree with us, and understand their point of view. What unites Democrats is our priority, our emphasis on empathy, putting ourselves in other people's shoes and walking a mile. And I think that's incredibly important, and we've got to be cognizant of that on social media. But here's where that stops. We can engage with folks who disagree with us, but we cannot disagree on facts. Climate change is real. 3 to 5 million undocumented immigrants did not vote illegally. This executive order is a Muslim ban, and it is. What I think is most insidious about social media is the perpetuation of fake news. Fake news that is propaganda to deceive our community. So it's on all of us as responsible social media users to call out fake news when we see it and to fight against it.